In recent years, a growing tension has emerged between the government of the United States and its own citizens. A conflict not fought on foreign soil, but in courtrooms, on city streets, and across digital platforms. This is not a conventional war, but a symbolic and systemic struggle over power, rights, and control. From surveillance and police militarization to debates over freedom of speech, gun ownership, and bodily autonomy, many Americans are beginning to ask, is the U.S. government protecting its people or suppressing them? In this video, we explore the deeper roots of this conflict, what it means for American democracy, and how far the line can stretch between authority and liberty before it snaps. In a surprising and highly controversial move, National Guard troops have been deployed to Los Angeles. What makes this situation even more unusual is that this decision came directly from former President Donald Trump, without the approval or consent of California Governor Gavin Newsom. This decision has sparked a significant constitutional debate, as well as widespread public discussion. The deployment was a response to violent protests that erupted following a series of immigration raids conducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE. These raids led to over 118 arrests in the first week of June, targeting undocumented immigrants across several neighborhoods in Los Angeles. The public reaction was swift. Protests broke out almost immediately, with demonstrators blocking major highways, setting vehicles on fire, and clashing with law enforcement officers. In response to the escalating chaos, Donald Trump ordered the deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops to the city. However, this order was given without going through the usual legal and political channels. Traditionally, deploying National Guard troops to a U.S. state requires the approval of the state's governor. In this case, Governor Newsom was not consulted beforehand, and he made his opposition very clear. According to him, the state's own law enforcement agencies were already managing the situation. He labeled Trump's action as unconstitutional and called it a direct violation of California's sovereignty. He stated that deploying federal troops without coordination with the state government undermines the balance of power that the U.S. Constitution is designed to protect. Los Angeles. Mayor Karen Bass also addressed the public during this crisis. While she urged protesters to remain calm and peaceful, she expressed concern about the presence of federal troops in the city. She described the deployment as an unnecessary and escalatory step that could worsen tensions rather than resolve them. To better understand the legal and constitutional implications of this decision, it is important to look at the structure of the National Guard's authority. Under normal circumstances, state governors control the National Guard units within their own states. However, there are exceptions. Under Title 10 of the United States Code, the president has the authority to federalize the National Guard during specific situations, such as a national emergency, an armed rebellion, or an invasion. These are extraordinary circumstances, and the use of this power is meant to be rare. Donald Trump justified the deployment by claiming that the United States immigration system was on the verge of collapse. He argued that the violent protests signaled a national emergency, thus providing the legal grounds for his actions. However, many legal scholars and constitutional experts have pushed back against this explanation. They argue that the protests, while disruptive and in some cases violent, do not meet the threshold required to justify a presidential override of state authority. Labeling civil unrest as a rebellion or emergency under Title 10 is seen by many experts as a weak and potentially dangerous interpretation of the law. Another important law to consider here is the Posse Comitatus Act. This federal law restricts the use of the United States military and domestic law enforcement. The goal is to maintain a clear separation between civilian and military responsibilities. Although the National Guard can assist in emergency situations, its direct involvement in law enforcement, especially without state approval, raises significant legal and ethical concerns. The use of military forces to police American citizens is a sensitive issue, and one that must be handled with extreme caution. Following the deployment, the atmosphere in Los Angeles became even more tense. National Guard troops used rubber bullets, tear gas, and flashbang grenades to disperse crowds. There were multiple reports of injuries, including a foreign journalist who suffered a serious head wound from a rubber bullet. The video of that incident went viral on social media, sparking outrage and further inflaming the debate. More than 100 protesters were arrested in the days following the deployment. Human rights organizations, including the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, strongly condemned the federal response. They described it as an authoritarian overreach and a dangerous precedent. According to these groups, the federal government's decision to send in troops without state permission undermines the very foundation of state rights and democratic accountability. They have called for investigations, and some have even suggested that Trump's actions could have long-term implications for the future of American federalism. In response to the deployment, Governor Newsom announced that he would pursue legal action against the federal government. His administration is exploring the possibility of filing a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Trump's decision. Legal analysts say this case could reach the Supreme Court, depending on how lower courts interpret the balance of power between federal and state governments. Political experts are watching closely. Many believe this case could set a major legal precedent. If the courts rule in favor of Trump's actions, it could open the door for future presidents to deploy federal forces in any state, regardless of the will of the local government. That would represent a dramatic shift in how federal and state powers are balanced in the United States. The core of this issue revolves around a long-standing debate in American politics. Should the President of the United States have the authority to deploy military forces within states without their permission? Is such a decision justified in the name of national security, or does it pose a threat to the principle of state sovereignty and democratic governance? This incident in Los Angeles has reignited that debate. bringing it to the forefront of public consciousness. Implications go far beyond California or even the immigration issue. At stake is a constitutional structure that defines the relationship between federal and state governments, a structure that has been in place for over 2 centuries. This is not the first time the United States has faced questions about the limits of federal power, and it certainly will not be the last. But the actions taken in this case, by both the former president and the California governor, will be studied and debated for years to come. They represent more than just a response to a moment of crisis. They are a test of the American democratic system. What do you think about this decision? Do you believe it was necessary for national security? Or do you see it as a dangerous step against the rights of individual states? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you are someone who values deep and honest analysis of current events, geopolitics, and international affairs, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We break down complex issues in a way that is clear, insightful, and fact-based. Stay informed, stay engaged, like and subscribe,